Could I interest you in a puzzling game of chess where your piece transforms into the one it captures? Welcome to Strig's Game Café, everyone. Have a cup of metamorphosis. Simplicity in design can be a great thing. I'm a staunch defender, both as a gamer and as a game designer, that a short but well-polished experience will always be better than a padded-out blockbuster. During my October 2025 venture in the grand exposition that is the Steam Next Fest, I found many such candidates to become the next the next members of my ever-expanding backlog. One such game consisted of nothing more than a simple twist on chess. Its name was Metamorphosis. And so it was that I downloaded the demo, along with over 100 others, and played it at some point during that fateful week. In the end, I loved the simple but effective execution of Metamorphosis enough to include it in my highlights of the Next Fest. And then, a month and a half later, I got a little surprise. The developers of the game, Wise Monkey S or Wise Monkey Entertainment Studio, contacted me and offered to give me access to the full game, which had already released by then. I took them up on their offer, and that brings us here. Now, before I go any further, there are 3 things I need to say. First, I have had another video in the works for some time, and I know I've been teasing this thing for a few months, but I swear this isn't some weird attempt to hype it up. It's just, that one is a really long video, and I still have several hours of footage to edit. To be honest, I'm a bit excited about my first really long essay, as someone who enjoys watching them. However, that one will have to wait for another day, possibly even after the February 2026 Next Fest edition, depending on how things go. Second, on top of the key I used to play Metamorphosis, I got 9 more keys, and I intend to do a little giveaway with them. Here's the way it works. I'll link a short form in the description, and if you're interested, just answer the questions and send it to me. I've also added a section where you can recommend games for me to cover. About 2 weeks after the video is posted, I'll randomly select 9 people who answered the short form and send their keys via email. The last thing I need to say is, despite the fact that the developers were kind enough to give me those keys, that is not the whole reason this video exists. Rather, I decided to make it because I genuinely think some good stuff can be taken out of this deceptively simple puzzle chess game. At this point in time, I've played Metamorphosis for a little over 4 hours and got almost all of its achievements save for one. It is a short game, so that's to be expected. But enough preamble. What is Metamorphosis actually like? Well, it's kind of in the title. Metamorphosis is composed of 64 puzzles, each giving you a starting white chess piece, which you then have to use to capture the enemy king under a certain number of moves. The twist comes from the fact that every capture induces a metamorphosis into the black piece you removed from the board. So, if you capture a pawn, you become a pawn. If you capture a rook, you become a rook, and so on. Additionally, if you get to the top side of the board as a pawn, you can promote like you would in a chess game, which is not only useful because you can choose your transformation, but straight up necessary to clear some of the puzzles. Finally, if you mess up, you can undo your previous move or reset the puzzle entirely at the click of a button. If you run out of moves or get captured, the game counts it as a quote-unquote death. But there's no real penalty for it, and you can mess up as much as you want in any single stage. The first few levels are pretty straightforward, but as you advance, the game will introduce more mechanics, like tiles that add or subtract from your number of moves allowed, red pieces that move in specific patterns to capture you, cracked tiles that disappear after you step on them once, and golden pieces that respawn infinitely to give you a constant transformation source. These mechanics were all present in the demo for the game, and it was an interesting surprise to see the developers take this relatively small amount of features so far. I would also like to draw attention to the fact that there is no tutorial window. Sure, there's a manual you can open detailing the game's mechanics, as well as the traditional movement of every chess piece, but at no point will Metamorphosis shove a pop-up on your face to explain an upcoming mechanic. The learning is all left to your own brain cells. And sure, you can say that's easier to do in a chill puzzle game like this than in other genres, and Metamorphosis mechanics aren't that complicated either way, but I appreciate this kind of thing regardless. This is very much the sort of game you're meant to play at your own pace, given most of it involves thinking about sequences of moves. Speaking of playing your way, I think this might be the best time to bring up that Metamorphosis has a bunch of customization options, including not one, not two, but 3 different color blindness settings. Now, I am not colorblind, so I can't exactly judge how effective these are, but I don't really remember seeing 3 different options like this in any game, so I thought it was interesting enough to mention. Along with this, you can also customize the appearance of the chess pieces and the board itself. I think this is pretty cool, I only wish these changes were reflected in the game's UI. Oh, and there's also this setting for arachnophobia? Wow, they really thought of everything, huh? I'll leave its effect a secret for you. My one actual complaint with the game has to do with the sound. For some reason, the volume of the music is really low, even when cranked up to the max value. Perplexingly enough, the volume of the sound effects is fine though. On top of those things, there are buttons for a level editor and community levels on the game's main menu, though they remain locked for now. Maybe they'll be added in a future update. It would certainly expand the game a lot, especially if the community can add their own cosmetics to the game. So, now that you have an idea about what it's like to play Metamorphosis, let me tell you why I decided to make a video about it. When it comes to making games, it is incredibly easy to overinflate your scope and add more and more features that take up development time, or that aren't implemented well enough, or even end up being underutilized by the game itself. A lot of the times, a game that does only a few things, but does them well, is better than a game that tries to do too much and does nothing well. And I think Metamorphosis is an example of the former. It's a short game that took me only a bit over 4 hours to complete, as I said previously, but those were 4 hours very well spent. The mechanics are intuitive and easy to learn, where nothing is used only once and then never brought up again. Anything you memorize from the first dozen puzzles is useful until the very end. But easy to learn doesn't mean easy to master, and some of the later levels really tested me. I remember several moments in my playthrough where I sat there for a few minutes, just observing the board and thinking up moves in advance. And when I finally got it right, I got that good old dopamine rush all gamers know and love. I think too often developers can forget the value of the simple fun that can come from only a handful of mechanics. And I say this as a developer, mind you. I brought up that one meme about wanting shorter games with worse graphics a few times in this channel already, because sometimes it just makes sense. Sure, maybe the devs of Metamorphosis can add some more puzzles later, along with that level editor and community content. I'd also definitely love some kind of time challenge mode. But even now, Metamorphosis is more than worth its insanely low price point of $2.99 at this point in time. It's a game that takes a simple concept, adds an interesting twist with a handful of mechanics, then takes it to the limit in a way that players can grasp quickly on their own. A game with a decent presentation and game feel that does what it needs to do. And a game that can be beaten in a single sitting without you feeling unsatisfied with the amount of content. Maybe some of you watching don't like chess or puzzle games in general, but, and forgive me if I'm being presumptuous here, I believe many of you will agree that all those things I just said are exactly the kind of stuff we need and want in our video games. My name is Strig, and thank you for your patronage. If you're leaving already, please consider giving a tip in the form of a comment and a like. And if you want to come back, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell on your way out. Thank you for visiting Strig's Game Café.